Hello, hello. Just gonna make sure we're fully live and we will begin. Make sure. There we go. We're good. We're live. I got new lights. I got less facial hair. I am feeling excited and wonderful. So, the post I am doing today, I just put it in my notepad here so I can get it all. What makes you different from others? Those are your gifts. And do you recognize them? And we'll ask a few questions. Why are gifts important? Who decides if you're normal or good? This is an important one for our own self perspective. Why do we look outside for validation so much? And just we're learning to live that we are exactly perfect and exactly who we are. So, okay, so let's go from here. Our gifts are our differences. So if we become aware that societally we're trained to all be the same, to make everybody not uncomfortable or comfortable that they're similar to everybody else, and from birth we kind of mimic what our parents do. That's part of our learning process. So if our parents are shy and relaxed, we may pick up those traits because we don't know any better. We don't know that there is a possibility to be different than shy. If our parents have certain beliefs around money, around religion, around all these things, these come automatically into us as a being. It's part of our learning process. As a child, we pick up everything like almost instantaneously up until about the age of 7. It just goes straight into our subconscious. We believe that everything that we're being told is true and correct. And you have to understand how important this is, because let's say my parents told me this color was red, and the color that everybody else maps, red, is actually blue. Well, based on that, my whole reality is going to be different. How would I understand what a red light is when I look and it's the color that we see as red, but it's actually showing up as blue? These kind of fundamental truths about how we recognize the world and see each thing is based on our young cells and how we picked up what we got. Can you imagine going from zero knowledge of living and walking around in a physical world when we're born to the point that we are walking around and having conversations and building complex machines and understanding physics and science and all these things? This is the world that we're lived in. But at the same time, to make the world easier for some people and help people normalize, and you can look at normalize as good or bad, but normalize is making everybody understand the world in a common way. There's many normalizing factors in the world. If you live in a country like I live in Canada, I've normalized the view of the world in a different way. If I grew up Muslim in the Middle East somewhere or something, I'd have different perspectives about what's good, what's bad, what God is, how we even do things like wipe ourselves in cleaning our bottoms. There's some cultures where the hand is still used to clean ourselves instead of toilet paper and other things, because the culture said that this is a normal thing. So the reason I'm getting to this is we're filled with all these things that make our reality and our perspective different than everybody else's. And that can work to make it easier for us to interact, which is good, but it can also do things like, let's say, a Catholic perspective. So I grew up Catholic in my religion. Sex before marriage is bad, but people still have sex before marriage. They go and live in sin or have this perspective that they're doing something wrong because they want to experiment and challenge. But then you have to go to church and you have to confess it as a sin. You have to do all these things. Don't eat fish on Friday, or don't eat meat on Friday. Is it something in a Catholic faith, if you're really devout, that may be built into your system? And your parents did that always. I know my dad, that's very typical for him, but I didn't pick that up. But it could shift things so that I only ate fish all the time on Friday. Same things are happening around who we see we are. So if we're different, we'll pick up the label black sheep. I'm the black sheep of the family. And I can honestly say that I have different perspectives than my parents around religion, around how the world works, around spirituality, around bodies, around sexuality, etc. And when I speak of these things, I call them my gifts now. For a long time, it was like, oh, geez, my parents don't agree with me. I'm the black sheep. I'm ostracized. I'm bad. I make people feel uncomfortable, etc. But I want to share a different perspective. If we're living in a culture where we've been normalized to say all these things are bad or not good to talk about, why is that? Do we even know the reasons? Because yes, religion put it there. Maybe there's control around sexuality. Maybe there's people that understand that sexuality can be very healing, but in a container of love, but it's maybe not around marriage because the religion says marriage is required. The perspectives that I've had and through my marriages and my divorce and this kind of thing, I've seen a new perspective. And I have that perspective, and it's not that it's, some people may judge it bad or make them feel uncomfortable, and then I'll be judged as a black sheep. And for a long time, I took that. It's like, oh, there must be something wrong with me, or I'm just too open, or I'm just whatever. And people throw comments at people that make them feel uncomfortable. It's like, geez, you're way too open. For my brother, for example, he would constantly tell me, you can't talk about sex. You can't share sexuality information to people because they're just not ready and it just makes them uncomfortable. Well, that's his opinion. That's his shames and guilts about things that are going on. And I don't disrespect that. And I find that in a lot of people. I see that happen with people that aren't even my brothers or their friends or family or whatever. I'll talk in a bar or something about what the work I do and how I talk to people or whatever, and that can make people feel very triggered. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, it's a different form of light that I'm broadcasting that's bringing a purity and innocence that brings out the shame and guilt maybe in the other person. And it's something I've had to become comfortable with in my body, that I speak about stuff in a way that's not disrespectful, but my light requires me to shine and speak my truth about these things. And I really strongly believe my gift is to bring information about the healing power, the depth, the creation level power of our sexuality, and why it's been repressed in this world is to keep us small and to keep us ashamed about these things, when these are the things that are actually healing our system. If we could have more sexuality, more orgasmicness, more bliss, all these beautiful things start to happen in our body. And a human body is designed to have these factors and these mechanisms used on a regular basis to open us. So I'm going to suggest this thing. The thing that makes you different and makes other people uncomfortable and you talk directly about may also be a gift that you're giving to these people, because the gift shines light into an area where there may be shadow inside of people. There may be beliefs that are no longer serving them around their sexuality, or shame, or maybe they had a trauma in their past or whatever around sexuality. I'm using sexuality as an example because this is a really huge part of what I feel my gifts are. But to talk openly about it without shame, without guilt, and make a safe place where people can have these discussions, something changes. All of a sudden, they're going to respond with their trigger and trauma, and that's bad, and all their programming. And over time, that initial like knee jerk of get the hell out of my life, I don't want you in here, you're a black sheep or whatever, all of a sudden changed to, okay, there's something going on here. This person isn't ashamed by it. This person isn't affected by my shame. Why is it different? Why is he more comfortable? Why is he feel safe around this stuff? And then all of a sudden you're shining a light on a topic that may cause triggers in people. And that's part of the awakening process. We as people are bringing new light, shining new light, like a lighthouse, like a solar flare, whatever you want to call it, onto old beliefs that are no longer serving, and creating this shame and guilt and repression of ourselves. So if we start looking at our gifts, and I talked about sacred sexuality stuff as one of my gifts, but what gifts do you have to speak about trauma, to speak about some past negative experience, like a rape trauma, or what's the name? Oh, I can't remember. There's like some young hockey players in Canada that were abused by their coaches. I'm trying to remember his name now, but he went to the bottom and went to the addictions and alcohol and all this kind of stuff. And then he grew above it, and he started speaking about this abuse that he had from his coach. And he became this light that shone into all the other people that were having that same experience and didn't know, they thought they were bad or there was something wrong with them. And he shone this light. So a lot of us are going to be coming here with these big traumas and these things that we thought were made us victims and other things. And we're going to grow through them and rise above, and then start speaking with light about them, and then being like a lightning rod or a lighthouse that shines into that energy that maybe felt bad or trauma, and other people are going to resonate with it and say, I had that same experience. This guy or girl is speaking lovingly about this situation. He doesn't have to like it. He can be very uncomfortable and sad that this happened or whatever, but then speaking with integrity and saying, I did not deserve that, and I needed to get my voice, and I needed to have my conversation. And the very act of sharing and speaking vulnerably about your experience becomes that lighthouse for other people. So what makes you different? What makes you bad or wrong or whatever is unlikely not that. It's a thing that you've come and taken as a path that you're going to shine light for other people, so that they can walk the journey through this and release the shame, release the guilt, release the trauma, and then rise up by your example. And people that are in full acknowledgement that they're different and that they've had these things in their past are really powerful people. They have light, they have shine, they have conviction. And these are the things that look like they were crushing us and killing us, but these were the very things that were taking the carbon of who we are, the coal of who we are, and pushing us into a diamond, until one day we pop this open and then there's a beautiful shining diamond of our heart saying, yes, I lived through that. Yes, I had the shame and guilt of Catholicism around my sexuality. Yes, I've dealt with, I was a virgin until I was 30 years old. That's how much shame and guilt I had around sharing sexuality with another person, because of my religion, because of stuff that was in my past and other things. And there's no shame in it. It was just like, how do I communicate with a woman or a person and share this sexuality when there was trauma in my past around women and sexuality and abuse and other things? And I was trying to fix it, and I wanted to not be that and not go into situations where this would happen. And it basically twisted me into this shame and guilt that wasn't even mine. And now we're living through these situations, and we're finding out that these gifts of where we were victims, where we had trauma, where we had all this stuff, is the very thing that has made us shine, has grown us into a lighthouse, grown us into integrity, grown us into boundaries, grown us into ways we can communicate. So these things that were so hard and almost destroyed us are the very things that polished us into a diamond, into beauty. And so if you're thinking you're a black sheep, or thinking that you're a victim, or thinking that something bad happened to you and you've been abused and blah, 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 there's so many things. Those more than likely are your gifts. And there's a gift underneath that you're going to be able to speak about and say, okay, I did this, I worked through it, and I'm better. And now I can speak about it, and I can tell other people the tools that I use to get through this. So what makes you different? Until you recognize it, you can't see it as a gift. You see it as, I'm a victim of that, or I'm bad for that, or I could have done better, or whatever. I look back at my life of relationships and trying to be with women and all this kind of stuff, and I see it's completely and totally confused and mixed up and full of victimness and little child on my side and little child on their side and other things. But all I know is I stayed in unconditional love when a lot of other people went into their trauma. And I know I've come for better than that, but I've seen everything but to this point. So does that make me bad or a person not able to have a relationship? No, I've had to look at every tiny piece of work that goes with that. What was heard inside of me, why my inner child came out, why I kept attracting inner children, etc., etc. And now I'm through it and I'm saying, oh, wow, look at this amazing Paul. But it's because I'm different. It's because I'm not like everybody else. I don't just roll over and whatever. I make a comment. I communicate clearly. I have discussions that are hard sometimes. And without all those negative things that I thought were bad up until this point, I wouldn't have learned those things. So they're gifts in a long, roundabout way. And I'm going to tell you, if you've been having a hard time in your life, you have had so many gifts of showing you what you don't want, of showing you where your boundaries are messed up, of giving you an opportunity to look in and shine light on things that most people would think are bad. And one day you're going to stand up and you're going to speak in front of a whole bunch of other people and say, okay, this is what I learned through that. This is how a relationship should be. This is how we got to communicate. This is how blah, blah, blah. And that's your gift you're going to give to the world, because you went through hell and you now know how to get out of hell. You now know how to, the behaviors, the programming that you got, the epigenetic lineage shit that you had that's made you kind of just lay there like whatever and be taken and abused and other things. And we didn't even know that they were there, but they were programmed into us from birth. So just know that everything we're experiencing is perfect. And don't let anybody tell you that you're wrong or you're a victim or you should have done better or you shouldn't have done that or whatever, because every single thing leads to knocking on our door over and over and over again. And sometimes it feels like you're getting beat up by all this kind of stuff saying, why did I choose this? What behaviors made this happen? And when you're going to find it out, it might be, oh, it was way back up in my lineage, my parents, my grandparents, or whatever. And I'm just cleaning it up. So it makes no sense to me, but at least somebody's being aware of it and saying no more. And that's you. So without these gifts, can you imagine cleaning up all the shit that's inside of us? It wouldn't have been possible. So all of it is normal and good. There is no such thing as bad. If you've had abuses, if you've had trauma, if you've had things that make you feel like the bad sheep or whatever, these are you taking a much harder path than most people are taking, and you're learning for yourself. And it's kind of feels fucked up. You'll go through it and you'll say, why the hell would I do this? I beat myself to the ground. I'm going to speak to that right here and now. I beat myself into a pulp, but now I know who I am. I can stand here. I can shine light. I can say no fucking more. I can speak to people that are fucking me around and say, no, we're not going to have this discussion, or we're not going to be passive aggressive. You're not going to communicate to me in this way, because that's loving me. That's loving me. We didn't even know we had that possibility. A lot of times we grow up with parents and say, you're supposed to be seen but not heard. And it shuts our voice off right from the very beginning. Now we're learning and saying, no, Dad, you don't do that, or Mom, you don't do that. And I won't accept narcissism. I won't accept codependence. I won't accept all this kind of stuff because it feels bad. So I'm going to turn it around and say, okay, what the hell is going on here? Why are you crying in front of me? Why are you saying this thing? Why are you making me feel bad for speaking my truth? No more. Not going to happen. We, as the black sheep, are choosing a path of a new way that's different and better than what we were allowing before. And we didn't know that there was a difference between better or worse. You can say that worse is actually good because it's poking at us and telling us to eventually make a choice. And most people won't make the choice. They'll say, oh, geez, I'm a victim and this just keeps happening and my parents have been like this. No, you eventually get to make a choice and say, the only choice is mine. The only choice is to love me and to make some choices, to say no more, to rise above. And maybe sometimes that means walking away from people. So I hope this is clear, but to understand our differences helps us recognize what our gifts are, what things we're going to be teaching here, what wisdom we now know from our life experience. And there's something at the end of it always. And if you're still in a point where you're angry and frustrated and all that kind of stuff, it's okay. All these solar flares, all this shit that's going on in the world is pushing us to be wide open. Drink lots of water, breathe lots, Epsom salt baths, let it go through you. Feel the grief, feel the anger, feel angry, speak about it, be vulnerable. And then eventually a point comes when those bubbles are all gone. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, there was a purpose for all this. and you're finding the purpose. This time right here and right now is teaching us the purpose of all this pain and suffering and struggle and whatever we had. And now we're opening up and saying, no more. I love myself. No more. And then it gets easier and easier and easier to be happy, easier and easier to be high vibration. And then you're going to find people are drawn to you. They just see you. They're like, holy shit, why is that guy so happy? Why is he speaking about this stuff? He makes me uncomfortable, but it feels good. That's my gift. That's your gift too. So try it. Look into this. You're going to find some truth at the bottom of it. It's a difficult concept because it's looking at our whole life and saying we didn't make a mistake, we weren't a victim, we weren't all these things, and then finding out why. Okay, my boundaries were wrong, my beliefs from my family and my parents and my religion were teaching me to do all this stuff, and then we can make a choice and say no more. No, I don't agree with religion. I grew up Catholic, and one of the first things that you say when you go to church is this thing. I am through my own fault and in my thoughts and in my words, like what I've done and what I've failed to do. It's just like speaking that you're a sinner from the minute that you're born. So you're going into church and you're constantly saying this. I will not say those words again, and cancel for what I said. That's stuff that just gets into you and you don't even know it's affecting you until one day you wake up and you say, holy crap, I'm saying I'm bad. I'm a sinner. I'm not a sinner. The word sin actually doesn't even mean what we're mostly told. Sin means off target. It's an archery term. It means I just missed the target. My arrow was in sin. Well, so every time you make a mistake, you're a little off target. You get a chance, you get to there, and then you adjust, and then you become different, better, etc. It's all through choice. And what we believe about ourselves is everything. So start believing better about yourself. You're not a black sheep. You are glorious. You're returning to your God self. And I am impressed with all of you. So thank you for listening. And any questions, put them in the bottom and we'll talk. Have a great day. Thank you. Thank you. See you soon. Gotta go over here. Yeah, love you.